I want to congratulate you and to thank you for coming and for your support, for your consistent support in Israel. And I thank also the World Jewish Congress that organized this event. I think it is crucially important. I think you arrived at least today to the Knesset before actually before those who are actually should work here. And I thank you also for that. Anyhow, I'm convinced you heard so many speeches that I think that the most reasonable thing to do is that I'll refer to things which is in your interest, or you will ask, or you will raise, and I'm open to do it in any field. It can be my field of ministerial responsibility, or security, or foreign affairs, or economy, or whatever. It is depend on the thing that is in your interest. So without any further speeches, I don't want to waste time. I'll leave the floor for the one who will volunteer to raise an issue or a question. I know it is quite hard in 9 o'clock in the morning, and if I will not have any choice, I will give a speech, but I think it's not.
It's important to bear in mind that the minister also sits on the select security cabinet, the inner cabinet of the prime minister. So he's very much involved with just a few other ministers on the most crucial security issues that are facing Israel. So that's also an important subject.
Okay.
You can ask anything.
Whatever from electronic music to national security and global issues.
You know, one of the things is there is a flotilla, as you know, the flotilla that is supposed to be coming in these hours is one of the major security issues, and there are many others. And in Israel, some of the top ministers are involved in actually more than their just appointed file, so you can feel comfortable speaking on a range of issues.
Yeah, thank you. Just two questions. One is...
Well, if you just mentioned names.
My name is Žarko Korać. I'm
Jacques.
Yes, I'm from the Parliament of Serbia.
Serbia.
I congratulate you for choosing education, because when I was in the government, I always thought those dealing with education and health have no career whatsoever, because you're dealing with most educated people that are not paid enough, and they're always dissatisfied. So it's the most difficult job, probably. But nevertheless, this is just from my professional standpoint, one question, and the second would be political. Are you part of Bologna in the higher education, Bologna process in Europe? You know that European countries agreed on the shape of higher education, high education. So I'm curious, is Israel accepting those standards? And that would mean in practice that Israel would have the same system of higher education as Europe. But the second question is obviously political. My feeling was from what I got from chosen representatives of your political elite, if I may say so, is that your position on September recognition of Palestine as a state, and it seems is inevitable, is very passive. I heard here only explanations that are reactions to what might happen. So I would ask, what is actually a proactive position on that? And especially after this 0 hour, what passive...
About the political process?
No.
Okay.
And what is going to be Israeli position after 0 hour if Palestine gets recognized in UN? How do you see, where does it go on from there? Thank you.
We'll take two other questions, and the minister will answer three, please.
John Sudarsky from Colombia.
What's the name? Sorry.
John Sudarsky from Colombia. Has to do with the notion of education in a religious or secular state. I guess you are in the position of the government of being supported by a great number of Orthodox Jews and people who strive for a non-secular state. Could you expand on that issue and the implications that that has in education, from basic education to higher education, and the role of this political pressure in moving and influencing that as compared to a more secular, technical, scientific approach?
And we'll take one more.
Yes, thank you. I'm Boris Levish, Member of Parliament of Latvia. Boris. Yeah. So in the European Union, we are talking a lot now about teaching diversity and teaching tolerance. And diversity in Israel is extremely broad, and how the diversity management is reflected in the education system. I believe that Israel has a lot to be proud of, but in Europe it's virtually not known. So I will be grateful for some brief comments on this issue. Thank you.
Well, in a way, the two last questions or issues are connected. And first of all, on the principle level, Israel, I think, and I'm not a religious man, that Israel cannot simply be a secular state. If an important part of your definition is a Jewish and democratic state, and of course Judaism is nationality and a religion in the same time, and of course everyone sees according to his point of view. The thing which is relevant for him, but Israel cannot be a secular state or a state with a total separation between religion and state affairs. Part of our very basic arrangements, constitutional arrangements, are connected to that. And of course there is a consistent struggle between different point of views and different sectors in our society. What should be a Jewish state? How it reflects in education, I don't know if it is 100% according to the questions, but one of the characteristics, and which is not dealt enough even in our public internal debate, is the fact that we have a few formal streams in our education systems. We have at least 5 major streams in our education system. National, which is basically secular or traditional students. National religious. 2 ultra-Orthodox, one is Ashkenazi and one is Sephardi, and an Arabic one. So, on one hand, it reflects part of the diversity in the Israeli society. On the other hand, one can criticize these arrangements from the point of view that children are not meeting, and at least until a very older age, on a daily basis, with parts or with different children and people which are growing in the same society. Of course, it is very interesting to think about it in terms of values of tolerance and diversity. On one hand, it reflects the fact that the state actually, I don't know if deliberately, but actually recognize diversity and allow to give a very differential education to different kids. On the other hand, one may say, well, it is not helping values of tolerance when you are not meeting on a daily basis with the different. And this fact has a lot of implications on our society, and I don't think that today we are in a situation of canceling the different streams, but we must think how we work more in order to strengthen the things which are in common in the different streams, because all streams have a different curriculum to a certain extent. There are some thing that everyone is learning at the same time, but you have a lot of things which are different. So this is how you can deal with that fact in terms of education. I'm not sure that if it was up to me, we would have established these arrangements. On top of other problems, a system with so many streams, and I've talked about the main streams. Of course, you have a lot of independent schools and which are not connected to a stream, or which are connected to smaller streams. It cannot be efficient by definition, this is for sure. Jacques asked two things. First, about the Bologna process. It is quite complicated to explain it, but you have different levels. You have countries which are center countries and they are participating, like the European countries, and you have countries which are satellite countries which are participating in some of the processes of the Bologna process, and we are part of this second group. About the political process, of course, one can say, well, you should have taken the initiative in a former stage. It's a legitimate criticism, but I want to emphasize a fact which is important, and we don't have so much connection between the facts and the way they are represented in world media. This government decided about 18 months ago to unilaterally freeze totally the construction